Hey guys, what's up? So today I want to talk about Music Theory 101, Level 1. It is very important and super interesting, and I actually think it's super simple as well. So even if you don't have a lot of background in music, you can follow this. Check it out. When we talk about music, we often talk about scales. So what is it? Basically, we have one center, one gravity point, for example C, and all the other notes relate to that center in a way of tension and release. Now, I also made a practice PDF with the questions and answers on the other side, so you can check yourself if you got it and you know this information well. That will be on my Patreon. It's actually not complicated, and the reason I kind of want to talk about it and see it on piano and guitar is because visually the piano is very, very clear. If we look at C major scale on guitar, or on an untuned piano, the relationships between the notes stay the same. Now, the idea with scales is basically that we have one gravity point, we call that tonic, and that's the name of the scale. So when we're playing in C major, we're basically relating all the notes to that point, that center. Now, we can also use chromatic notes later on. The word chromatic is coming from the word chrome, which means color. Now, again, this would be a different kind of scale, but the point remains. It's all about tension and release. So let's talk about C major scale for a second. So the smallest building block we have in Western music, at least, is the semitone, half step. You can see it visually black and white on the keyboard. Or on guitar, each fret is a half step. Now, I know you know that, but it's important to understand that we have to hear it and we have to see it as well. So when we're playing C major scale, when we're practicing scales and arpeggio and different things, we want to make sure we actually see and hear those relationships. A lot of times people like talking about intervals. Now, there's nothing wrong with intervals. It's a sound. This is a major third, this is a minor third, it's all great. But the most important thing to remember is the relationship to the center. In that sense, when I'm playing C major scale, I really want to see the relationship to the center. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And I'm hearing the melodies and the chords in that relationship. It's not out of context, and it really is connected to that center. And later on, as we go more chromatic, it's a little bit more complex, but it still holds the same function of tension and release against a center. What are chords? Now, with music, we talk about chords often, but it's important to understand what are those chords and how are they built. And then, of course, later on, how can we adjust them, change them, add tension, add extension, and see the freedom within that framework. So check it out. So basically what we're going to do right now is build 1, 3, 5, and those numbers are just the scale. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and then I'm going to grab those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just take the 1, 3, 5, C, E, and G, and that's the triad. That's C major. Now the notes are C, E, and G, and it's important to hear it as a 1, 3, and 1, 5, and not 1, 3, 1, 3. It's not a stack of major and a minor third, it's a stack of a major third and a fifth. This is very stable, and it's important to understand and hear it in this kind of functional way, because a lot of the music that we're dealing with functions that way. So the first step is understanding the chords in C major scale. What are those chords and how do we build them? So they're going to be built on 1, 3, 5 of each one of the degrees of the scale. That just means that we're taking the C major scale, this sound, and building a triad, 1, 3, 5. You can see it visually again on the piano, 1, 3, 5. Why is it 1, 3, 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm just taking those 3 notes, 1, 3, 5. And then I'm going to do the same trick on the second chord from D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5. And notice that we're getting a minor third here versus a major third. Now, maybe you already know it, but it's really important to understand and see it in the framework of the scale. So, C major, D minor, 1, 3, 5, E minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5, F major, F, A, C, G major, again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then taking the 1, 3, 5, A minor, 1, 3, 5, A, C, and E, and then B diminished, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're getting that F natural, so we have this clashing trident that gives us the 7th degree of the scale diminished. Now, a lot of times people want to memorize things, you know, they say, oh yeah, in C major scale it's major, minor, minor, major. Now, of course, it is a true statement, but instead of memorizing, I would see and understand the functions and how it really works, right? So you just need to understand C major and see the relationship, slow things down so you can really process that information both for your fingers, your eyes, and your ears. And logically, just seeing and understanding the connection between those notes. The next step of this triad is adding a 7th. Now, this is something we do a lot in jazz, and what I'm going to do is like just visually see it right now on the keyboard. So check it out. I'm taking the C major scale that we had, 1, 3, 5, and adding the 7th. Now the 7th is not just a random number, of course, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's the 7th note in relationship to that center. So if this is C major scale, and I'm playing C major 7, this is the 7th degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then grabbing the 1, 3, 5, and 7. The same thing I can do from D, so 1, 3, 5, 7. Why 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, there's no real guessing, it's more understanding the scale and then counting and figuring it out. And then of course, after you do it for some time, it comes really naturally. So if someone asks you, oh, what is the 9, what is the 7, what is the flat 5 of a chord, you almost automatically can answer that, but just because you or I have practiced that for a while. So if someone asks us, what is the sharp 9 of G7, and you say B flat, it's not like that I'm very talented, I just did it a lot of times, and I can hear it, I can understand it, I can just say it because, you know, you've done it enough times. If you want to run, run. We get good at what we do. So the same thing with theory, we need to put our minds into it, and when we're practicing the scales and the music, understand what we're doing at all times. Back to the 7 chords. So, D minor 7, E minor 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, E, G, B, and C, F major 7, F, A, C, and E, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, G7, A minor 7, B half diminished, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 1, 3, 5, and 7, and then back to C major 7. Now let's do this on guitar. Now again, with guitar we can't really play 1, 3, 5, 7 and then move that around because it's gonna be not really possible. I mean, I guess possible but not really reasonable. So what we're gonna do is use shell voicings, which are these beautiful sounds. Now if you're not sure about that, there is also more information here. So C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B diminished, and C major 7. We can also play it from the 6th string, so C major 7, D minor 7. You see I'm just going through the scale, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B diminished, my guitar is almost ending, and C major 7. So what I would do is make sure you understand the framework of C major scale, the context of the chord and how they're built and how they sound. So don't just say like, oh, I know it's D minor. Listen to it. Oh, so nice. Enjoy that beautiful sound of the major 7, the 7 to the 6th degree. The next step for this would be adding the 9s, adding the extension. So let's take again C major. But again, basically C major 7, 9. And again, the 9, it's nothing crazy, it's just the 2. D to C. The 9, it's basically the second degree with an octave displacement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2. C major 7, 9. Then the same thing, copy paste E minor 7, 9. When I'm playing E minor 7, 9, I'm getting this note, the F sharp. Because between E and F there's a whole step. The same relationship we had between C and D. Whole step. So we need to understand that framework of the relationship, and then we can only copy paste it. F major 7, 9, etc. So what about guitar? Can we do this on guitar? Yes, we can. I'm going to take C major 7, shell voicing from the 5th string. So 3, 2, 4, frets 3, 2, and 4 from the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, and I'm going to add the note D here on top. Sounds beautiful. And again, those shell voicing are great because we can always extend them with other tensions, and again, because we understand what we're doing, we can always alter things. D minor 7. Here I'm just going to add the 7, so getting fully diminished, and C major 7, 9. Of course there are many voicings for these chords. When we're playing a D minor 7, 9, we can also voice it an octave up. That little lo-fi sound, right? It's just D minor 7, 9. Just sounds great. But it's very simple, and again, because we understand the context of C major, we can hear it and create more. What about 13, flat 9, flat 5, all these? The same thing. If we understand the framework, we can just create it. How about we take C major, 7, now change it to C7, flat 7, like we had in G7. Now I'm going to add the flat 9. What is the flat 9? 1 half step up. How about I change this to C7, 9? How about I change this to C7, 13? Okay, 13. What is a 13? Sounds like a lot of numbers. But actually, let's take minus 7 of that. So it's actually the 6, the same way we had the 2. We said that's the 9. So the 13 is the 6. What is the 6? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ah, okay. So it's just the note A. So C, E, G, B flat, that's C7, and an A on top. How about guitar? So I'm going to take the chord C7 shell voicing here and add the note A on top. Now if we're playing in C major, take this chord G7, G, F, B, same thing, shell voicing, and add the note E on top, Y, E, in relationship to G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's the 6, and that is the 13. How about flat 13? E flat, G, B, F, G, B, D, F, flat 13, E flat. And then all these sounds, once you start playing them, you have some muscle memory, some kinesthetic memory of that, you begin to hear them more. And it's really getting more and more clear. So when someone is playing like this chord, it's like, oh yeah, it's just D flat 7, shell voicing with the 9 on top. So simple. But so beautiful. I hope this was interesting and clarified some things for you guys. I think understanding that is really helpful to create music. So now, go make some music. I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.